And I'm Alberto Ibargüen. I'm president of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. We support programs that inform and engage communities. We are formerly a newspaper foundation, now a digital innovation, media innovation foundation. It's our core belief that informed communities the people in informed communities are the best judges of what is in the best interest of people, and the best way of ensuring that those best interests are carried forward is to have the citizens engaged. Nothing could be better for us than social media. Nothing could be better for us than open government. We are privileged today to be celebrating the Texas Tribune. We have two Texas representatives who are here who are outstanding members of the Texas House, and we are especially pleased to have a surprise guest who's not on the list outside. Neither am I, actually. But I am not Michael Manus, so don't ask me for any money. But we have, if you care about open government, there is really one key congressman you have to know about, and that is Darrell Issa, and I don't see him, but I know he's in the room. Representative Issa, would you come up and say a few words? Welcome.
Thanks, Alberto. Got a drop-in guest. The only problem with this stage, I figure I should be doing stand-up. Okay, it worked. I'm going to keep going. No, but thank you for giving me just a moment. For me, South by is really about, are we going to do game changers? And because every year there are game changers announced here, I'm here with a couple of my official staff, and we're trying to figure out where the next game changers are coming from, whether it's big data that we were just talking about, and whether we can do more with open source software produced for everyone, or whether we can simply have those petabytes of data that the government owns made available without, to sort of paraphrase a tragedy, somebody having to go into a closet at MIT and download what should belong to the American people. Those kinds of things are why I'm here. As you alluded to, I'm also here because my view of open government is two-part. People inside government, I know one of the legislators that's here from Texas legislators feels the same way. We've got to create the ability for you to get the data. We've got to change how we present it so it's easier. We don't want you having to decipher PDFs. We want the data easy to find and accurate to pull off. And then you have to have a healthy disrespect for government. I knew that one would work. But look, you know, you're a little younger than me, so I'll take advantage of that. I'm from the generation that said, let's stick it to the man. Okay, now, I am the man now, so I have to be a little careful. But you have to not trust your government. And whether you're on the left or the right, trust me, we're wasting your money. We've got cronyism. We've got laziness. We've got all of that mixed in with really good, hardworking people who simply have systems that don't work well. Both of those have to be addressed. We have to empower people who care, and we have to have the outside world looking in. To me, open government doesn't decide whether the left or the right will win. It decides whether or not they will have an opportunity to have an honest debate with facts rather than what we present as facts from government. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all for being here. And if you're developing, we've got lots of opportunities for you to help us save America from its own bloated growth. Thank you.
I'm not sure the stick it to the man generation works. I'm actually from the generation that said don't trust anybody over 30, but it was so long ago that I don't remember why. That's right. I knew him. So we're sitting in Miami in our wonderful view of Biscayne Bay, and we heard about this operation in Texas, where we don't typically work, but it was really attractive, and it was attractive because they were setting up something that sounded strangely familiar. There was a guy who there were a couple of guys who were putting this thing together that meant to produce the best editorial product possible, and they went out and hired the top editor. They wanted to have an operation that runs like a business, isn't a business, but is like a business, and pays the bill so that it can sustain and continue to pay for the business of informing community. And unlike so many other news startups, they also brought technology to the head table. That combination of brilliant editorial product, business-like operation, and technology at the center of the operation is what made me actually, and this is a story that I don't intend to repeat, but the truth is that I heard about it, I picked up the phone, I called John Thornton, and I volunteered to give him money. Actually, it was one of the best phone calls. One more time. Next week. It has been one of the best phone calls I ever made. I can't tell you how pleased and how proud we are of the work that Texas Tribune is doing, because it is really, really, really important to have quality news available with as unbiased a filter as possible, available for all of us. Evan has a program that I think you'll really appreciate, and I just want to say that on behalf of my colleagues, and there are about 6 or 7 of us here from Knight Foundation, we are thrilled to be here with you, and we are especially proud to be strong supporters, early supporters of the Texas Tribune. Evan Smith, the best editor in Texas. Maybe the United States.
Alberto, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out on a Sunday night during the busiest week of the year here in Austin to be with us to support the ideals that you heard Alberto and Congressman Issa both put before you, and certainly everybody at the Tribune shares them. Let me say, first of all, to Alberto, to Michael Manis, to John Bracken, Chris Sofer, Megan, everybody here from the Knight Foundation, we would not be here today. We would not be standing in this room today. The Tribune would not exist today but for the generosity and the faith that the Tribune had in the work that we do. The Knight Foundation is a leader in that when they give, others give behind them, because they know that the Knight Foundation's endorsement is the good housekeeping seal of approval in journalism. And so I say to everybody here who cares about Texas and cares about the Tribune, let's give a great hand to the Knight Foundation for what they did in supporting us. And yes, as John said, one more time. That's exactly right. Let me acknowledge some of the Tribune people here very quickly. First of all, co-founder of the Tribune and our past board chair, John Thornton, another person without whom this great journalism would not exist. John Thornton right here. Our current board chair, Steve Adler. Our board members, Jeff Eller and Professor Rosendahl Alvis are here. We may have had another board member sneak in while I wasn't looking. And the Tribune staff is arrayed around the room. They're the absolute best colleagues you could ask for, and they have done an extraordinary job in making Texas more open and more transparent on the theme of today. Can we have a hand for them as well, please? We share and have shared, it's encoded in the DNA of the Tribune. We have shared from day one a commitment to open government and accountability and transparency. When we launched the Tribune, we launched with a commitment to making government, not just the Capitol up the street, but the Capitol in Washington as it relates back to Texas, more open, more accessible. There is nothing about the inner workings of government that everybody in this room should not know. And until recently, you had to be a lobbyist in a fancy suit, you had to be an insider to have access to the kind of information that you all should have access to. The fact is, we become more thoughtful and engaged and productive citizens when we're in possession of information that allows us to make better choices. And until recently, you've not had access to that information. The Tribune is part of a movement across the country. Journalism organizations focusing on getting you better information so you can make better choices. The Night News Challenge. Some of you know about the Night News Challenge. It's kind of going on now, the process that Night goes through in looking for the best new innovative ways of getting this information out is focused on open government. And I want to encourage you all to look up and check out what they're doing on the News Challenge at the moment. Well, we are aligned 100% with the mission institutionally of what the News Challenge is doing specifically and Night is doing generally in terms of accountability and open government. And if you read the Tribune over the last few months, you know about our business as usual series. It kicked off on January 8th, but it was preceded by 9 months of reporting by more than 20 reporters dedicated to investigating potential conflicts of interest within the 181 members of the Texas legislature, whether their personal financial interests were in any way in conflict with the public's business as they do it. Ethics disclosure, financial disclosure reporting in the state of Texas is woefully inadequate. All of us in this room may not agree on everything. We can certainly agree on the fact that financial disclosure by elected officials in Texas is not what it needs to be to give all of us an accurate view of what's going on inside that building. And I've invited to be with us today 2 state legislators, an Austin Democrat and a conservative Republican, 2 people who may not agree on anything else. I think they maybe agree on some other things. But they may not agree on anything else, but they agree on the idea that the legislature needs to be transparent. In a state without a heck of a lot of bipartisanship, open government is the last bipartisan issue. It is the thing that the far right and the far left can agree on. We're not being told the whole story. We're not being given enough information to adequately know what's going inside government. So let me invite Representative Donna Howard, Democrat of Austin, Representative Giovanni Capriglione, Republican of South Lake, to join us. Please give them a hand. Representative, Giovanni, put you there. Representative Capriglione was elected in this last election cycle. He's relatively new to the legislature and has made waves in just the short time that he's been in office. He was elected last fall after defeating an incumbent Republican in the primary in May. Representative Howard was first elected in early 2006 in a special election, has been reelected in each cycle. And each of them this session has introduced legislation that would blow the lid off of the current disclosure system. And the things that their interests are in common are, number one, greater transparency on the financial interests of family members of legislators as it relates to their business. Right now, the elected officials in this state are not obligated to disclose enough, or really anything, about what their family members do, what their family members' financial interests are. So you may not be able to tell whether legislators are self-dealing. They've championed that kind of disclosure. Second of all, in 2013, the Texas Ethics Commission still will not digitize the financial disclosure forms, the reporting that legislators do, as woefully inadequate as it is. The Ethics Commission does not digitize those forms to make them available online to all of you. Now, the Tribune has done that. We have them on our site, but we had to do it manually. The state does not make that stuff available online. And the third thing is, there is one area of state government that is not open, and that is the employee retirement system, the public pension system. You cannot get, through open records requests, information about the pensions of elected officials, and they're trying to change that. So let me ask Representative Howard first, then Representative Capriglione, to say a word about what they're doing to try to make disclosure in Texas better. Representative.
Thank you. It's great to be here with all of you, and I am really glad to see this focus on open government. And it is absolutely the truth that Representative Capriglione and myself do have a lot of agreement here, as do a lot of other legislators, quite frankly. But there are many more who do not, apparently, and I'm waiting to hear his story because it's really the better one tonight. He had a recent hearing. It's very interesting. When I came to the University of Texas in 1969, there was a lot going on in our world. And in 1970 was when John Gardner founded Common Cause. And so I was a University of Texas student, interested in good government, interested in process, and that was the perfect place for me to get engaged. And so that is one of the earliest things I did, was become involved with Common Cause. Eventually served on the State Board of Common Cause Texas. I've always been interested in the process. I've always been interested in transparency, openness, and good government. And clearly, if we have information available to us as citizens, we are better able to make decisions about whom we elect and about what we expect those that we elect to do. It has been brought to our attention quite forcefully in recent times by the Texas Tribune and others who have really forced the issue. And I have to say that is one of the things that I am actually quite pleased about that the Tribune has done here. Held our feet to the fire and made sure that we were paying attention to this issue. Evan mentioned that we do not electronically file our personal financial statements. Not only do we not electronically file them, but of course they're not even online. We do have the Tribune to go to now, but I would say that's not the way it should work. State government should be putting this information online. It should be accessible. You should be able to actually have it set up. But you guys know the words better than I do. I don't have the correct terminology, but where you can, the searchable database, you can actually manipulate the system to find things out. We don't have that, and it's what we do have in place right now. The range of contributions is we go up to $25,000. I think the federal disclosure is something like $5 million. It just really doesn't make sense. And you mentioned the reporting information about our spouses. You know, clearly that's of interest to our spouses who are kind of wondering, well, I didn't run for public office. Why should I be telling you about my financial relationships? But in fact, here in Texas, we are a community property state. And whatever my spouse does or any other elected spouse does, we have 50% ownership of, and therefore we do have control of and should be reporting those relationships. We have both proposed some legislation, some of which is to increase what is reported in the personal financial disclosure statements. I've also have legislation to make sure that it's posted online. But what I've also done that I think is really what I'm really primarily leaning toward right now is the creation of a select committee over the interim to really look at this in a more global way. We haven't had a comprehensive review for a couple of decades now. And the fact is there is a lot that we need to be looking at here with our financial disclosure system. So I have legislation to create a committee that would have folks from the legislature as well as representatives who would come from the so-called good government groups, the media, and spend some time over the interim looking at our system and making recommendations that hopefully we could implement in the next legislative session.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, Representative Capriglione, what Representative Howard is alluding to is your having dared to suggest to your colleagues that they be more transparent. And in a committee meeting, you getting your hand slapped, that may not be an adequate description of what happened to you. If you read the New York Times today, the Texas Tribune pages, you read in detail about what happened to Representative Capriglione, but I'm going to let him tell the story because it's illustrative of what happens when you attempt to lift the lid on things that have been previously under it.
Sure. Thank you, Representative Howard. Thank you, everyone here. Evan, appreciate it. I was talking to Donna right before this, and I do think we have more than 5% in common. So tomorrow we're going to try.
I'll talk about that.
Progress.
Yeah, I have filed a lot of different bills related to transparency in school districts and pensions, also the transportation department and so on. But my very first bill, which I had promised people in my district that I was going to file, was a bill related to additional financial disclosure of candidates and elected officials here in the state of Texas. And you know, it made a lot of sense. I mean, when I go and I tell people that that law doesn't exist, they always look shocked. They assume that we go and we tell people, hey, I have these government contracts. It happens to be with the state or it happens to be with the city. But we don't. We don't have the rule. And since we create these laws that could affect those municipalities and cities, I feel that we should be more upfront and more transparent about it. And I did file that bill. I got a hearing in front of the State Affairs Committee, which is one of the bigger, more important, I guess, committees, and it was my first time as a freshman, and you always expect a little bit of hazing, I guess, on your very first first bill, and I did. I got quite a bit, and it, you know, for me, when I look back at that, I guess I wasn't really expecting anyone to say, hey, no, we shouldn't be disclosing that stuff, but that's what was said. They basically said, hey, you know, why? We already do so much to disclose this information. And anyway, I look back at it and say, well, you know, what's happening right here, we're in a basement at South by Southwest event, and it's still putting more sunlight on that. And hopefully what comes out of this, if you tweet and all of that stuff, we can talk about it.
And the people who objected, Representative, to your daring to file this legislation were your fellow Republicans.
That's
it was
right,
the Republican members of the committee who said, no, 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 we think it's fine to keep the status quo.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of people, and I guess even at the beginning of this, we said, hey, well, transparency is something that should get bipartisan support, but I think clearly we see that there's bipartisan resistance to it as well.
Is it true that you're being told, in essence, hey, that's a nice job you have there, be ashamed if something happened to it?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to working on this bill.
Let the record show that the representative did not say no.
No, I'm going to keep working on this, and I think that whether it's this or pensions, all of this stuff, I mean, it really comes down to individuals.
Why is, I would ask both of you this, why is the state's, this would be, I promise, the last question, why is the state's pension system not open to an open records request? Why are we less entitled to that information than we are to other information?
I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I clearly think that we are entitled to that information.
Has anyone told you why this is the last protectorate, basically, of government secrecy in Texas?
You know, what we have here in the state is that if you wanted to go, the rationale that's given is basically that, oh, this is personal and confidential information. You're going to find out information about policemen, about firemen, that might be dangerous if it's known and going on the internet. But at the end of the day, we need other information that's not personal and confidential. For instance, our 6 checks going to one address. You know, are people getting outsized bonuses? That's the lead-in for something you talk about. But we should be able to get that information. I filed a bill related to that.
And we had a situation during the last presidential campaign which, because of the federal disclosures, we found out that Governor Perry had technically retired so that he could collect his pension alongside his salary but retain his job. This became known as double dipping, colloquially, and we find out that there are actually many elected officials in Texas who, it's not what's illegal that's the problem, it's what's legal, that there are many elected officials in Texas who now retire to collect their pension alongside their salary. This practice is not as uncommon as you would think.
I think that there are some who believe that they are justified in some of these practices because of the low pay we get as a part-time legislature. That's talked about a lot. But quite frankly, you know, the fact is that we are a part-time legislature, and just because of that doesn't mean that you should not be disclosing information about taxpayer dollars that are being spent. That you're taking advantage of.
Because after all, Representative Capriglione, these are taxpayer dollars that are going into those pensions.
It is. It's all taxpayer dollars. If there's a liability and it's underfunded, then you're going to all be on the hook for doing that. And you know, I think that one of the things that we have to make sure is, you know, when there was a lawsuit to this effect related to one of the pensions is, hey, we just want to know the top 130 some odd pensions that are giving out to elected officials. Right. And a court, because of a law that's there now, said you can't have it.
Can't have it. Well,
Can I say one other thing, just real quickly,
yes,
because I don't think this is about gotcha so much as it's about just having the information so you can make informed decisions. I don't think we're talking about exposing information so that we can be trolling for finding something that's really nefarious going on, so much as it's saying, this is the situation, and you as voters and as citizens ought to have the information so you can make the decision about what you think is right or wrong about the situation.
And that really is a perfect place to end, because that is the theme of this evening. You all have a right, we all have a right to know. That's what open government's about. That's what initiatives like the one the Knight Foundation is doing is about. That's what the Tribune has been about largely, and especially over these last couple of months. And fortunately for Texas, we have at least 2 elected officials who view that as part of their charge. So we thank you both. I think all of us in this room wish you good luck as you press additional disclosure. Again, thanks to Knight. Thanks to all of you for coming. Enjoy the rest of this party, and let's keep supporting open government. Thank you.
Thank you so much.